Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you if you're in the UK, and good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Jonathan Ledger. I'm from the Department for Business and Trade, and I'm the Technical and Vocational Education and Training Specialist. Also have a responsibility for professional and chartered bodies. Today is part of the SkillsFest, which has been happening all week. This is session number 5. Session number 6. It's been a long week. And we have another great range of speakers from the UK showcasing their technical and vocational skills provision and vocational languages, technology and all sorts. So we're going to have a real good session this morning, and you're going to be amazed at the diversity of the skills that are available in the UK. So, do enjoy the session. At the end of today's session, there will be a 15-minute or so slot where we have questions. So if you have any questions, please use the chat function that is on the MS Teams bar, and we will pose those questions at the end, and all the speakers will have a go at them. But we're not going to delay you anymore. We're going to dive straight in. So our speakers are all ready to go. I'm just going to quickly introduce them all, and they'll do a quick wave on screen or something, and then Munir will dive in because he's up first. So Munir Mamaji, he's from M2R Education. Catherine Langford from Education and Training Foundation. Amajit Dajal, have I got that right? Dajal, from OCN London. Lauren Blackwood from Right Track Learning Limited. Hazel Lintz from TTE International, and Nicola Woolwork from the National Skills Academy for Nuclear, otherwise known as NSAN. Without further ado, let's dive straight in, get this thing going. And it's over to Munir. So Munir is an MBE actually, and he is director of a multi-award-winning education consultancy, M2R Education. Munir was awarded the MBE in 2022 for services to education and to export, and continues to look for new opportunities to drive the company forward. Munir, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
So good morning from the UK. As Jonathan said, my name is Munir Mahmoudi, and I'm the Director of M2R Education. And I'm here to talk to you about using technology to improve English language skills. And at the end of this presentation, on the screen, there will be a QR code, which if you use that, we will give you a full free trial of all our courses. Who are we? So we were established in 2001, and we are a multi-award winning education company based in Wakefield, West Yorkshire in the north of England. We are Department for International Trade Export Champions, and also accredited by the Department for Education. We offer a range of online and offline teaching and learning solutions, including teacher recruitment, digital English language courses, international teaching internships, and tutoring. And we currently provide these services to over 50 countries. Now, there are numerous app and online English-based language courses and solutions to choose from. So why use us? Well, to date, over 1.8 million students have accessed our digital EAL courses and online tutoring across 50 countries. We have delivered over 20,000 hours of tuition in the past 2.5 years alone across 4 continents. If you are considering using a technology-based EAL solution, then our digital and and online options could be exactly what you are looking for. Now, why should you even consider using an online or digital model? Surely now the world has opened up, people are traveling. Why bother? Well, these are a few statistics that I gathered through the likes of the World Bank, UN, etc. over the last couple of days. The number of online learning users is expected to reach 57 million by 2027. 2 out of every 5 Fortune 500 companies take advantage of e-learning. 70% of students agree that online learning classes are better, and e-learning uses 90% less energy and 85% fewer CO2 emissions per student compared to a traditional physical classroom-based model. Now, following the COVID-19 induced shift to remote working, people are increasingly looking to digital learning to develop the skills to navigate today's consistently evolving world of work. Using technology in education allows for greater accessibility and flexibility. We all exist, even though we probably don't want to admit it, in a digital world. Checking emails on phones and tablets, keeping up to date with current affairs, and watching videos and on-demand TV and sports. So why not use a phone for learning, a smartphone? 70% of all learners who use our digital courses study for 30 hours or more. And these are self-study and they're learning on their own. So they are developing key skills in independent learning and self-discipline outside of a traditional learning environment. They can learn without fear or embarrassment, practice speaking without worrying about whether anyone is going to comment on their accent, for example. I'm sure we've all been there learning a language whilst at school, and we get nervous, and it can be very damaging to self-confidence. Self-study and also private online lessons removes all of this. Now, I want to talk to you about in more detail about our own courses and how they can benefit you as an organisation and also your employees and your students. Our digital English language courses offer a structured self-study approach to learning, coupled with blended learning if needed for additional in-class teaching. A full learner management suite allows teachers and trainers the ability to monitor engagement, accessing individual reports and tracking learner progress. Courses can be customized to tailor your needs, and if you desire, courses, digital material and apps can be rebranded with your organizational logo to give greater credibility. We offer a range of courses, all expertly curated and professionally designed. You can pick and choose which courses you want and add and remove as you wish. Learners can access from their browser or by downloading the free app, which is available on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Logging in is completely secure via a username and password, or if on a browser, a unique URL. Our general English courses cover all manner of everyday topics and are suitable for learners at all levels, from beginner to advanced. Using machine learning, as the learner develops, so does the course. An innovative pronunciation course allows the learners the ability to practice their speaking skills in privacy. By speaking into their phone, their speech is recorded, analysed and scored, giving the learner a way of improving without fear or embarrassment. Our vocational courses are ideal for those who are looking to develop their English skills in a work-based setting. Business English courses, for example, employees who need to improve their reading, listening and speaking to engage with colleagues internally or across the globe. Hospitality English courses for those in the hospitality and tourism sector, designed by the author of the OUP book on tourism. English for nursing, developed by experienced nurses and expert material writers. English for cabin crew, developed with the British Council in Singapore, based on their experience training Singapore Airlines staff for more than 20 years, and edited by the editor of the OUP, the Oxford University Press Cabin Crew English book. Our academic courses cover the key areas for English language development within an educational setting. Academic IELTS courses, designed with the help of experienced British Council teachers to ensure accuracy when preparing students for the IELTS exam. English for academic purposes helps students become more effective whilst at university. And new courses are also in development. And if you want something bespoke, then please talk to me and we'll see what we can do. All courses come with an extremely detailed and flexible learner management system. Student performance can be tracked and monitored, and data can be downloaded in real time. You will be able to see the exact module your learners are focusing on, their individual scores and performance against internationally recognized grading criteria. Learners can also see this data, and it aids performance and motivation. As well as a full reporting system, organizations can also select, customize, and combine courses to suit the needs of the business. You can rename, brand, reconfigure, giving you total control of what course is delivered and when. And finally, to complement our digital English language courses, we also can offer a range of digital textbooks to complement the language learning journey. These can be fully branded and are also interactive. If you are considering a blended approach to language acquisition using digital technology combined with either online or face-to-face tutors, then these books could be invaluable. Now, so far, I focus on digital learning via an app or a browser. But what about live online lessons? If you recall from earlier, 70% of students agree that online learning classes are better. Whether you are considering a blended approach to learning or prefer to just use a live lesson approach on a one-to-one or small group basis, we can offer the ability for students of all ages to improve their English using our extensive tutor network. As mentioned before, since the COVID-19 pandemic, online learning has increased significantly, and research shows that it's going to continue to increase. At N2R Education, we are privileged to work with a highly experienced and qualified group of teachers who can not only develop English language skills, but also academic and also vocational skills. Every single tutor has the qualifications needed to deliver an excellent teaching and learning experience. We carefully select our tutors, interview, check, and test before allowing them to represent us and teach you and your students. To date, we have delivered tutoring across all subjects and ages to private students, those in UK and international schools, training academies, to members of various royal families around the world, government ministries, and also sporting celebrities. If you want to know more about live online lessons, then again, at the end, you'll have my contact details. Please do let me know. Now, I want to share with you two organisations that we've done some work with. So the first one is we presented our digital EAL courses to a Malaysian skills network who were interested in offering our courses to their students. The feedback, as you can see, was excellent and shows how these courses can be used by people from all walks of life, from professionals to academics to the general public. Key takeaways here, as you can see: engaging and interactive content, helping users to learn English quickly, and finally, improving communication and English skills in business. And the second one is that we were asked to provide academic IELTS courses to an education consultancy in Nigeria who needed these courses for some of their students who wanted to study abroad. They contacted us, we organised the tutor, we planned the lessons, and we delivered on days and times convenient to the group. All of this was conducted online using experienced and qualified IELTS teachers from the UK. And as you can see from the feedback, the students loved the interactive nature of the sessions and also the impact. Now, before I close off, I just want to make you aware of our other services, as you can see behind me as well. We offer teacher training for those who want to develop their skills and teach English as a second language, either online or face-to-face. Courses are all fully accredited as well. We help teachers and trainers find jobs and help organisations around the globe hire teachers and trainers too. So if you're looking to hire, please again let me know. And finally, we also offer paid internships across Southeast Asia. So those who want to teach English but just need a bit of added support and reassurance. Now on the next slide, as I've mentioned before, are my contact details. So please get in touch if you can help. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to connect, book a trial, download our brochure, and I'll be around at the end for Q&A if you need anything at all. And Jonathan, I think back over to you. Thank you very much.
Actually, Munir, thank you so much indeed. And I never realised the diversity and scope of the language programmes and the way that they're accessible. So, hopefully that information has been really good for other people to listen to. And certainly, if nothing else, just again, just goes to show the flexibility and scope of the language provision that you've got available, covering multiple sectors. So brilliant. Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Munir, yes, please do stay around for that Q&A session later. So thanks. Moving on, we've got Catherine Langford. Catherine is from the Education and Training Foundation. Catherine has over 30 years of experience within schools, further education, colleges, adult and community learning too. Catherine has delivered training nationally for nearly 20 years, and during that time she's done coaching, nurturing peers in the further education sector, planning and developing continuous professional development for a variety of roles and sector specialisms. As lead continuous professional development trainer, Catherine works across ETF to develop CPD pedagogies, as well as delivering ETF CPD programs and bespoke programs for self-improving sector. So, Catherine, how are you doing with, do you want me to run your presentation or? Nope, you've got it. Fantastic. Good morning to you, Catherine. Thank you so much indeed. Over to you, we can see you.
Yeah, morning. Thank you, Jonathan. And welcome to everyone across the globe and whatever time zone you're in, you're very welcome. So I'm from the Education and Training Foundation, and we are a UK-based company who are a charity working with the further education and skills sector alongside the government to support the UK agenda in improving learning for students from the age of 14 up to adults, but with a real focus on 14 to 19 young people. We do have a charitable purpose, and we're very engaged with the sector as well as being engaged with the government. So when we talk about professional development, we focus on that for teachers, but also for leaders in educational organisations across the UK. So when we're looking at professional development, we design our programmes to model effective teaching practice. So I'm going to focus on that teaching side in my session today, but I want you to get a feel of what it's like to sort of think about learners at the heart of learning, but also to develop the confidence and skills of teachers to ensure that those young people are ready for the world of work or for further training and education. So our sessions are designed to engage and motivate. They're designed to support participants to reflect on their learning, and most importantly to be able to feel they can put it into practice. So we always have teacher takeaways or strategies that leaders can put into the organisations that they're managing and leading. And everything we do is informed by research, often global research, and evidence and practice. So at the Education and Training Foundation, we have national heads who are specialists in their subjects and will support and develop the materials that we then deliver and train. Based around our CPD, we at the Education and Training Foundation are the custodians of the professional standards for the further education and skills sector. And there are 20 of these, but they're split into 3 domains, which talk about those professional values and attributes, the knowledge and understanding that teachers need when they're working with their learners, and the professional skills that we want them to enhance and develop, both in themselves, but also in the students and young people and adults that they're working with. So when we lead CPD sessions, we'll also make sure that there are aims and objectives within those sessions so that participants know what the course is about and ultimately where it's going to lead them through on their professional journey. So I'm going to focus today on those underpinning skills, and I'll talk about English, but when I'm mentioning English, it really is as those communication skills that people will need when they're at work or at study. I'll talk about digital skills and also about math skills. So the UK government has a very strong strategy about those underpinning and those core skills that people need, both in their educational lives, but also in their working lives and the communities that they live in. And employers, we know, seek certain skills from their employees. And yesterday I gave a short talk on those higher order thinking skills, so problem solving, being learning people or adaptable people, having those sort of strong sort of team working skills. but today I'm going to focus on communication, maths and digital, because those are essential skills that everybody needs and will enhance the practice for everybody, no matter what their skills area is. So, for example, in a PD session, we would get to start thinking about the importance of those skills, where their learners might find those skills, and we might give them an activity to do that actually gets them to reflect on what information perhaps do we use, what terminology do we use every day, that actually, if we don't understand it, it's not going to give that easy on your fingertips practice in the employment that you go for. So one example I always think is acronyms like PDF, perhaps computer input devices, how the correct use of spelling, punctuation and grammar will happen in the sessions that you're leading. And we'll encourage teachers to think about this. So if you were wondering about the answers to the questions on the previous page, they're there, but it shows teachers how developing those skills in learners is really important, and often we take them for granted in our daily working lives. We'll also talk about that embedded nature of those underpinning skills. So often they occur without us being perhaps very conscious of them being there. And when we're thinking about trying then to develop those skills, both in teachers and their learners, we need to talk about how we can make those explicit, how we can develop them really to be extended and improved. And from employers, it is those next steps and skills that are really important when they have employees join their organisations, or perhaps when they're sending them on for further education and training. We'll also show real practical examples, and this is one of the key strengths, I think, of professional development offered at Education and Training Foundation, is that links not only between teaching, learning and assessment, but also that industry connection. So we'll look perhaps at real documents that people might come across, and of course young people now will be involved in work placements or perhaps work experience, and they'll need to understand what they're seeing in industry and what they're learning in the classroom and how those will connect together. So perhaps it is health and safety notices, perhaps it's instructions that they understand, perhaps it might be customer relations and perhaps client records, perhaps they may keep those digitally, or they may keep them by having to handwrite and use sort of transferable skills within communication. And of course, now within our industry sector, there's a lot of customer facing roles that employees have to make sure they understand the information that they're sharing with their customers. So if you're working in hospitality, for example, you may not only need to understand menus or what the choices are, but also the background to those choices and any allergies or ingredients that people need to be aware of. And we'll talk about all that in terms of those underpinning English and communication skills. So, for example, in our CPD, to get that engagement, motivation and collaborative element of the CPD that we lead at the Education and Training Foundation, we'll ask teachers to think about the vocabulary, that technical information that the students might need when they go into employment, and we'll get them to create some activities. And as we model that in the CPD that we're leading, we hope that they'll take that, transfer that into their own teaching and skills. So for example, we might ask them to think of 5 keywords or phrases that they know people are going to need in particular industries, and we may even delve deeper into specific language perhaps that will be used by specific companies or industries. So for example, the National Health Service. I've talked about embedding and those naturally occurring instances where we need to unpick those skills and then develop them with learners within their classrooms. But we also contextualise in terms of taking industries that people are working in, taking those perhaps into the English, maths or digital classrooms that we're running in colleges or adult and community learning. And we'll try to make that learning real for students. So rather than it being being naturally occurring and evident in the classes that they're attending, we bring the outside in. So we'll link to industry, we'll see what's needed out there, and we'll bring that into the classrooms, perhaps when students don't have the opportunity to go out into those industries and develop them skills. We contextualize it, we put it into the right scenario. We'll perhaps develop case studies or projects around specific language and skills that people need. And that's really important, I think, particularly for maths, because often people see it as quite a theoretical sector and understanding skills that they have to have, but actually it can be really brought to life within the industry and sector that they go to work in. ETF has been working with the government and Pearson's and have produced a really good document about principles and practice of contextualising maths within that further education and skills sector. So we're really talking about young people aged 14 to 19 who are beginning to go out into the world of work. And it's often getting learners to think independently, again, those higher order thinking skills, put the maths in context, and sometimes for employers, very importantly, noticing errors perhaps, or where something's gone wrong, and they get a real feel perhaps of what that maths means and perhaps the impact that might have on the sector that they're working in. And then the third underpinning skill, which people have mentioned already within the SkillsFest, but it's those digital skills. And we know now when we're working with learners in the sector that we're trying to prepare them for many jobs that don't exist yet. So there's transferable skills, that using those digital skills is really important. And the previous speaker was talking about using technology and digital skills to improve the English skills of learners. And of course, that translates across whatever language you're working in. So it's about the ability perhaps to search for information and the tools that might make presentations or working globally, translation, very important. And ultimately for employers, it's knowing that learners perhaps have a very open-minded approach, they're prepared to transfer their skills, and how they can keep up to date and current. And part of the professional development that we offer at Education and Training Foundation will be that currency in digital and technology skills that teachers need. So we would always summarise the CPD sessions that we've been working on with teachers. We would go back to the beginning and ask them to sort of identify what the objectives were for the sessions. But most importantly, we would then allow that reflection, that time to analyse, critically review and think about the session that they've been taking part in. But in terms of that engagement and motivation, what have they learned? What can they take from that learning, and what can they then put into the classroom practice and those interactions that they have with the students and the learners that they're teaching? So, for example, for English, maths, communication and digital skills, we'll be thinking about relevant data, perhaps that they might come across, how they can communicate, how they can perhaps represent that with maybe customers that they're working with their colleagues and peers, or with their managers and their senior leads within their organisations. We'll talk about the appropriateness of some of the communication skills, so their audience perhaps, or the digital tools that are relevant to the people that they're working with. And that might include hardware as well as software. And again, we'll think about that professional practice in industry. So looking at their own skills of presentations, how they make sure that the communication they're giving is accurate and appropriate, and bringing that together in a really holistic way, so that when we're training teachers, they have a focus on their learners, but also that aspirational element with their learners and that clear line of sight perhaps to work, industries and the skills sector. So I've talked about ETF. We are a charity. We work very closely with the sector and the government. We offer a very wide range of professional development for teachers, and also courses for leaders and managers within educational organisations. So this might include the new technical level qualifications that have been introduced in England. Apprenticeships are very strong in England now at looking at how people can engage with learning whilst being at work. T-levels flip that perhaps and work with students in education, but how we can engage with the sector, and they have really extended work placements that they'll go on. We also work with those underpinning skills that I've mentioned of English, maths and digital, technology, but technology as well for teachers to make sure that they're using skills, learners get comfortable with those skills and think of using them when they go on into the workplace, enabling connectivity, engaging in sessions like this across teams perhaps is really important. But we'll also look at that other side of digital skills and make sure that learners are safe. We do a lot of prevent and safeguarding within the further education and skills sector. So whatever practice you're part education and skills. So we're really looking at post-14 learners. We encourage them to stay in education and training till they're 19, but many adults now want to retrain, change roles and come back into the sector. And we know that really is that element of lifelong learning. ETF also have a membership body, the Society for Education and Training, and they offer professional support, opportunities to engage in communities of practice or professional groups. And again, they support teachers within the FE sector to really progress their career journeys and feel part of that community around learning and support that we can give to young people. So that's me. I'm Catherine Langford. I'll put my contact details in the chat for you. Thank you for your time today. And for those of you perhaps accessing this later, please feel free to get in contact with myself or the Education and Training Foundation.
Catherine, that was absolutely fantastic. Such involvement in the sector, you know, in terms of upskilling teachers and trainers and making sure that they have all the skills that they need. Brilliant. And I didn't know that you had a society, so, you know, new piece of information and definitely something people should be looking at. So thank you so much indeed. Really informative. Thank you so much. Do stick around for the questions and answers session at the end. So moving on, we have Amajit Danjal now. He's from OCN London. Amajit is Head of Partnerships and Engagement for the international awarding organisation OCN London. Amajit is responsible for new business and large projects within the company. Having worked in further and higher education since 2004 in a wide variety of roles, he is able to apply a holistic approach to his day-to-day practice in terms of developing qualifications and implementing those qualifications. He greatly enjoys using knowledge and experience to meet a range of needs and support learner on a larger scale. So over to you, Amajit. Have you got your presentation? There it is. We see it and we hear you. So there you are.
Thank you, Jonathan. Great introduction, and I'll try to live up to it. So yes, thank you for coming today. My name is Amajit. I'm from the awarding organisation OCN London. We're a UK-based awarding organisation and educational charity with over 40 years experience of working with different training providers, employers, charities, community groups, colleges, you name it. Our membership is quite vast. In the UK, we're regulated by Ofqual, the regulator for qualifications and awarding organisations, and also the Quality Assurance Agency for Higher Education. At our heart, we have a commitment to social mobility, environmental mindfulness and sustainability, which are things we try to implement in everything we do. And we're quite a fast-growing awarding organisation. In the last year alone, we had approximately 37,000 learner registrations. And a nice interesting statistic as well is that a very high proportion, at least 75% of the learners taking our qualifications or forms of accreditation are from the most deprived areas, yet a very high proportion do still manage to progress into further work or learning, further learning or work. Just to give you a brief introduction to some of the things that we do, we have a range of products and services. As an awarding organisation, clearly we have these national qualifications. So across a range of subjects and levels, we work with our centres, which can include employers, training providers, also government agencies where necessary, to develop qualifications which are fit for purpose, reliable, and carry weight wherever they're used. We accredit these other qualifications called Access to Higher Education Diplomas, which you might have also heard mentioned in previous sessions this week. These are level 3 qualifications within the UK, equivalent to about 3 A levels, and they're used by candidates seeking to progress to universities. We will be developing an international offer for these qualifications in due course, along with the relevant guidance from the QAA, the regulatory organisation. We do bespoke qualifications, and these other awarding organisations do sometimes refer to these as customised qualifications or non-regulated qualifications. And they're bits of accreditation that we develop specifically with centres that we work with. Centres retain the intellectual property, but the bespoke qualification is accredited by OCN London itself. They're a great option, particularly for those kind of organisations for whom a national qualification might not be the best option. Perhaps it's inappropriate for your needs or the needs of your learners, or your training might be particularly specialised or niche, or perhaps even commercially sensitive, and you require a bit of accreditation that might give you some competitive advantage. Endorsement, I'll quickly go through these. I will get to a case study in a second. Endorsement is an option which is a bit less focused on courses and qualifications. It's more about the centre itself and the systems they have for course development and delivery. Centres go through an endorsement process within which we review policies, procedures, etc., which leads to endorsement, and once endorsed, the centre can deliver as many courses as they like under the OCN London endorsed banner, with optional fees for things like paper certificates and digital badges. Micro-credentials I'm going to come back to in the second part of this presentation, and just to say as well, we have a range of other services which include, curriculum design and support based on our tremendous experience of working in a range of fields and sectors with a range of subject specialists, assessors, curriculum designers. So we're ideally placed to undertake other bits of work. But what I'm going to talk about now is a case study, which is about our ESOL international qualifications and international working. So last year, in about May, we were approached by a large exams provider, certification organisation in Greece, UCERT. They were looking for a partner to partner with a new awarding organisation for the accreditation and delivery of ESOL international exams. Being a very well-established organisation in this sector in Greece, they had a very high, and they continue to have a high volume of candidates taking exams on a very regular basis. So any transition between an old awarding organisation and OCN London would have to be seamless administrationally, in terms of processes, procedures, etc., timelines. Requirements were such that certain processes OCN London had previously had quite little experience in. For example, conducting external assessments, operating regular exam windows throughout the year. So it was a learning experience for us as well. And further to which, the qualifications would have to have regulatory authorization, both in the UK and in Greece itself through these respective organisations. So what did we do? Well, we created a formal agreement and we set out a project plan between the organisations, including all of those key deliverables and timescales, which again, we agreed between ourselves. We engaged and continue to do so on a regular basis, ensuring that we consulted our centre to make sure our end product wouldn't just meet their needs, but exceed them. And we were able to hit each of these milestones, getting regulatory authorization within a good time period, both in England and in Greece, with enough time, in fact, that we could start our first assessments within the December 2022 period. So by now, just a handful of months later, there are some nice statistics on this page, which I think stand for themselves. So we've had over 2,500 candidates registered within the last few months, boasting a 98% success rate. Our exams are produced to a very high quality, to exacting standards, using, subject specialists to create the assessments themselves, which are then vetted by other subject specialists from some of the UK's top colleges. We operate from going from a standing start to operating 9 assessment windows per year. But beyond all of these nice statistics, I think there's something nice here in that it's important that we're building a relationship which goes beyond simple transactions. So it's more of a meaningful partnership between the organisations, one which continues to evolve as we look for further ways to progress and to support learners to progress. I should mention as well, I mean, I've talked a bit about the ESOL qualifications here, but clearly do check our website. There's a URL at the end of the presentation which will take you to some further information. But I think one of the nicest things as well is I'll leave you with a quote for this section where my colleague in Greece, Effie, I think said it best. And I think in line with that, this dedication to partnership working is definitely something that's very characteristic of working with OCN London. Okay. I'm just going to move on from ESOL, and the other half of the presentation is actually about some of our new and cutting edge developments in terms of micro-credentials and the endorsement of different skills. So clearly we're working in a time, I mean, when is there not a time when there's massive changes going on, but at the same time we look around us and we see massive changes taking place in terms of AI, artificial intelligence, the green economy. It's very clear to us, and it's clear to the local and regional skills councils that we engage with, that there's a pressing need to upskill, to reskill, to help meet these areas of demand both now and in the future. So although we are very conscious as an awarding organisation that qualifications are a great answer to many questions, they might not always be the answer, particularly because they can be relatively lengthy, and they might not always be ideal for people who, for example, are in full-time employment, who might not have the time required to raise their skill level within these in-demand areas. So we're looking at ways to implement short targeted training of in-demand skills, and as an awarding organisation, being able to demonstrate that the learners have achieved these skills is very much of interest to us, and the ways that learners can actually evidence the skills to their employers, clients, insurers, etc. One such method, which I referred to a bit earlier in this presentation towards the start, is the process of endorsement, a process by which we can endorse centres for the quality of their courses and their delivery without having it so necessary to formally assess learners. But one of our main focuses at the moment is actually on pioneering the use of micro-credentials. So we are currently assembling an offer whereby we'll be able to accredit small chunks of in-demand skills. So these can be bits of learning that take anywhere up to about 10 hours. Each credential will be developed alongside employers and educators and mapped to relevant standards so that they can carry even further weight. As such, they're going to be small, flexible, so learners can pick up the skills they need when they need them. In addition, we'll be looking to make these types of accreditation, these micro-credentials, stackable. So success in multiple of these these types of credentials can be added together to create something larger, like, for example, a full qualification. Yep, we are currently working on our first range of micro-credentials. So these are going to be in the very in-demand fields of digital skills and in green skills, areas where we have, quite tremendous experience developed over the last few years, working with our different organizations. We're also looking at developing a digital wallet where it will be able to, people will be able to store these digital credentials with ease, access them on demand, and likewise be able to demonstrate them to, clients, employers, etc. And of course, these are works in progress. This is quite cutting edge stuff for us. So we're, obviously keen to work with and partner with organizations out there to develop a world-leading offer in these areas and more. My details are on this page, as well as which there's a link which you will receive to our international page. Thank you.
Amajit, thank you so much indeed. Really great that you touched on digital technologies, micro-credentialing and such like, because they are becoming a big, focus for people in the skills world, that portability, transferability across sectors, borders between industries and things. So really well done on setting some of that out. Thank you so much indeed. Keeping the pace up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Lauren Blackwood now from Right Track Learning. Lauren is an expert trainer, consultant and facilitator with vast amounts of ED&I experience, and she'll explain what that is in a moment, including but not limited to higher education and healthcare sector. From her time at Right Track Training and previously her global working experience. Lauren's academic background is in sociology and philosophy, and gives her the edge of critical observation and problem solving needed to identify and address cultural and social issues. Lauren's work is led by her passion for research and personal lived experience. Lauren, it is our pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. And, we look forward to hearing what you've got to say. We can see your presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that introduction. As you've already heard, my name is Lauren Blackwood. I work with Right Track Learning. We work across sectors globally to support organisations with their own development. Now, today we're going to be talking about social change and inclusion. Companies are embarking on social change and many of them are making their workforces a lot more diverse. So psychological safety plays a central and necessary role in creating an inclusive culture to support this diversity. Now, I'm going to be threading my own lived experiences throughout this presentation, specifically reflecting on my experience moving from a traditionally high-level competitive sporting environment, where I held numerous roles, a sports person, a coach, and a judge, and then my transition to establishing a career in people and culture. And I'm going to share some personal insights on and reflections on moving between the two. So, the workplace is growing increasingly diverse globally, and this is influenced by many factors. We have globalization as well as active efforts to increase representation within organizations. As you can see on the slide, there are two pieces of data that I've pulled out to demonstrate this explicitly. So the global average of women on boards has increased over the past few years, as recorded by the Harvard Law School Forum on Governance, and 89 of the Financial Times Stock Exchange 100 have achieved their target of appointing at least one director from an ethnic minority background. Now, there are so many benefits of having and fostering this diverse workforce. We've got critical thinking, so people from different walks of life with different perspectives oftentimes encourage critical thinking. And then we have innovation and ideas. Encouraging and valuing differences brings new ideas to the table and foresees different risks, so it really helps with horizon scanning. Data-driven, so diversity helps us to uphold objectivity and gives us the opportunity to revisit facts, helping our discussions to be data-driven as well as our decisions being data-driven. So if we have a diversity of viewpoints, it influences us to have deliberation. And as a consequence, we are a lot more likely to review the evidence that we have and be a lot more accurate about the decisions that we make. So continuously revisiting the facts in this way increases our chances of information being processed a lot more carefully. And then fourthly, we have customer satisfaction. Having a workforce that is representative of your customer base, of your client base, is really, really important because it helps you to ensure that your customer or client base's needs are going to be heard, understood, and also met. And then finally, we have additional skill sets. So diverse people come with diverse skill sets. For example, parents and carers are a lot more likely to be able to juggle high risk responsibilities that probably pile up day in, day out. And this is something that is very transferable to project management. If somebody is a non-native speaker, this brings opportunities for organizations to target new client bases or customer bases, or even liaise with new partner organizations. So there are so many things that come with a diverse workforce that can really benefit organizations. But in order to make use of all of these benefits and to actually access them, it's really important that we're making and creating the environment and the culture where people can lean in to these skill sets, to thinking outside of the box. So in order to give staff the confidence to share constructive criticism of ongoing projects or traditional ideas within your organisation, people must feel psychologically safe to do so. So what does psychological safety actually mean? Psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. So if organisations are reluctant to change, to grow, staff members might avoid sharing new innovative ideas, and then organisations are most likely going to lose out to other companies and therefore have a knock-on impact on their profit and also their staff retention. So it's really important that staff members have the confidence and the knowledge that their queries and concerns are going to be heard and fairly considered, regardless of their seniority or regardless of their identity. So basically giving somebody a seat at the table and creating diversity isn't actually enough to actually make sure people are included and feel psychologically safe. People need to have their contributions heard, and they need to essentially be given power to make decisions and to have influence. Now, in my career in competitive sporting, it was very much not like this. So there were oftentimes very unnatural, unnecessary consequences to having made mistakes, for example. If your performance wasn't as you wanted it to be or as it was supposed to be, then it was maybe like 10 laps around the field or around the training hall. And this is very much an example of psychological unsafety, which is very, very much normalized, and we oftentimes don't really see the connections between the risk that it causes to individuals and organizations. So what does the research say? How do we go about fostering a psychologically safe environment for our diverse workforces to thrive and so that we can enhance the benefits? These are some things that we can do to support psychological safety, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. So the first one that we have is encouraging unique opinions. This creates the understanding amongst communities that unconventional and out-of-the-box thinking is celebrated and very much welcomed within your organisations. So don't just invite diverse women to have a seat around the table to be on your committee. Actually give them power to make decisions, give them power to have influence. Secondly, we have avoiding micromanagement. This allows managers and leaders to demonstrate that they trust their staff members, that they see that their staff members have skills, and they also recognise that their staff members might have skills that they don't have and might be able to do projects in a different way that they would do it themselves. So really reflecting on not enforcing that comparison bias. Now, within my competitive sporting career, it was very unlikely that the sports person had kind of that autonomy or control over their development or their time. You couldn't take a break unless your coach said you could take a break. You weren't given the autonomy to decide if you were tired or not, to decide if you needed a break, if you needed to recuperate. And that's something that I very much had to unlearn when I came into working in people and culture. Thirdly, we have supporting smart risk-taking. So this means providing a supportive environment to enhance business growth. And when risk-taking doesn't quite go right, we make mistakes, and that's absolutely fine. It's a way that we can develop and grow. So the fourth one that we have here is moving quickly past mistakes. If we dwell on mistakes, it's very likely that staff members are going to be trapped in cycles of worry, and this will have a negative impact on their motivation to gain the skills to be successful in the future. Mistakes, as I said before, are very normal. We are all finite, and it creates an opportunity for us to learn and to develop. And here is a quote from McKinsey that I think really demonstrates the business case for inclusion and psychological safety, and not just for diversity. So it says, where team leaders demonstrate consultative, supportive, and challenging leadership behaviours, employees are 64% more likely to rate them as being inclusive. And I think that is quite significant. Now, there are many, many myths around psychological safety and suggestions that it isn't the most productive or effective thing to be doing within organisations. And we're going to talk through 3 ones that I think are most relevant. So the first one is psychological safety is about everybody agreeing on everything all of the time. And a psychologically safe workplace encourages healthy disagreement and constructive criticism. And this is how we make rigorous and informed decisions. So healthy conflict, emphasis on healthy, is a crucial part of psychological safety and creating psychologically safe environments. People should feel comfortable disagreeing with each other and know how to express this disagreement in a healthy and constructive way. And this can be difficult if you've experienced hostile or psychologically unsafe environments. And I can say from firsthand experience that making that transition to change my understanding and how I frame psychological safety was definitely a journey that I had to work on and really have a go at. I would never have disagreed with my seniors in my sporting career. I did as I was told, and I hardly ever thought to have a creative contribution unless I was explicitly told to. And that's completely different today. I always have my hand up in meetings. I always have a creative contribution to give. The second myth that we have here is in a psychologically safe environment, laziness, complacency, and incompetence are accepted. Now, a psychologically safe environment gives people the confidence to reach out for support and the confidence in their employer, in their manager, and in their team members that they'll get a constructive response to that request for help. So psychological safety does not mean anything goes. It, in fact, means that employees are oftentimes a lot more happy and a lot more invested in their workplace, in their community, and in the projects that they have ongoing. They are far less likely to lose interest, and they're far more likely to work more effectively. And the final myth that we are going to debunk is psychological safety is not beneficial in high pressure environments. Now, many studies have been done to disprove this, but the one that we are going to focus on was done by Harvard professor Amy Edmondson. So it might be easy to assume that if you're in a competitive environment, discipline should be prioritized. But Amy Edmondson found that even in critical environments that had high levels of risk, for example, the medical fields and the aviation fields, the best performing teams within those fields had high levels of psychological safety. So I think that is something that we should really, really think about in terms of creating a space where we want people to feel safe, we want people to be successful, but we also want our organizations to be best performing. And this is a key way that we can do that. Now, at Right Track Learning, this is something that we can support organisations across the globe and across sectors to do, to create a culture of inclusion, to address unconscious bias in different spheres within your organisation that it might come up in, and lots of other things that you can see on the slide. Again, this is by no means an exhaustive list to the services that we offer, but we do provide free virtual consultations to clients globally. So if you are interested in that, you can head over to our website, which I will also pop in the chat, but you'll be able to see it on the screen now as well. All of these toolkits that you can see on the screen are available for free for anybody to go and download. All of these toolkits will be able to support you to create an inclusive environment, specifically a psychologically safe environment for different members of your community. So please do go ahead and look at our website to download those. And the final thing that I'm going to say is, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns about the services that we offer, if you reflect on this presentation this evening and you have a burning question, please feel free to email us at inquiries@righttracklearning.com. But thank you so much for listening to this presentation. It has been wonderful.
Lauren, thank you so much. Really interesting, I think really relevant as well to the whole of the skills sector and the business sector and actually the government sector, because many people have unconscious bias and they don't even know they're doing a lot of these things. So really important to keep this at the top of the agenda. The other thing that I wanted to say is, you're a brilliant athlete. There's no doubt about that. You've done really well in your sports in the past. And can I just ask, any plans to carry on doing global sports as well?
Absolutely not. No, I've retired that hat.
Brilliant. But thank you so much indeed for today anyway. Thank you. Stay with us. Thanks so much indeed. Thank you. And moving on now, we have Hazel Lintz from TTE International, also Middlesbrough College, as Hazel will tell you. Hazel has over 20 years experience of running learning and development projects for major employers, including organisations like BP and Ferrexpro, with activities including looking at skills analysis, designing and operating training centres, providing oversight to education in international training centres and in centres of excellence. So lots of experience. Her passion is fulfilling learning and development needs, which meets nationalisation and complex local content requirements through programmes like apprenticeships, graduates, technicians, to work in industries of their home nation. So Hazel, you did a brilliant job the other day. We're really excited to have you back and looking forward to this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can see my slides. Good morning to everyone. I'm Hazel Lintz. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about TTE International, which is part of the Middlesbrough College Group. So just a little bit about us. Middlesbrough College is the largest vocational college in the northeast of England. We've got, certainly in the Tees Valley, we've got approximately 11,000 students with a mix between full-time and part-time. We've got somewhere in the region of 1,500 apprentices who are working both with us to get their qualifications and in employment. We work with 2,000 employers in the local area. We cover all economic sectors, so we go from construction to all the way through to travel and tourism, with engineering, hospitality, leadership and management, etc., all in between. We work across the whole of the Northeast. However, through our commercial arm, TTE International, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute, we can also work globally and have been doing for more than 30 years. Within the college, we've got somewhere around 1,000 staff, and we offer programs from the very entry level of education all the way up to master's level and postgraduate degrees. We're lucky to be part of the Institute of Technology, where we work with other colleges and universities, and we are a STEM centre of excellence, with STEM being one of our key focuses. Within the college group, there are 3 companies. There's Middlesbrough College, which has the all of the study programs and the 16 to 18 education, as well as some adult education. We've got Northern Skills Group, which looks after our apprentices. And then we've got TTE and TTE International, which is our commercial and our global facing arm. So as I've already mentioned, we're a STEM centre, a STEM college, and this is just some pictures of the equipment and the facilities that we've got. The STEM centre itself was built in 2015, and at the time was a £15 million investment, and we're fortunate enough to be building an extension to this facility to rehouse TTE from our existing facilities. Within the STEM centre, we have got operating chemical plants, we have advanced manufacturing equipment, including robotics and CCNC machines. We've also got wind turbines and equipment for the wind industry, as well as having simulations and simulated control rooms for operating plant facilities. So who are TTE International? Well, as I said, we joined the college back in 2019, but we're an organisation that's got 30 years experience in the energy sector in delivering training for the energy sector. We focus a lot on nationalisation agendas, so meeting the skills needs for companies entering new countries, new markets, to ensure that they can have a workforce that is made up of locals rather than having a workforce made up of lots of expats. The core delivery areas for us are electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, instrumentation and process operations. And the gentleman you can see in this picture was one of our Kurdish students who came to TTE last year to do a bespoke instrumentation course. So the products and services that we offer include design, operation and management of new and existing training centres, and I'll show you a couple of case studies about some of those works that we've done. We provide consultancy services, particularly around competency assessment, again to ensure that the local workforce has the skills to international standards to be able for them to work consistently and independently and safely time after time. We offer graduate, apprenticeship and technical programs. We've done that in Azerbaijan, Georgia, Ghana, Oman, Indonesia, as well as many others. And then we also offer bespoke programs where we might, such as internationally accredited programs where we can do MVQs as well as other bespoke qualifications. The two gentlemen in this picture were part of the same Kurdish group who came to study with us last year to do instrumentation. So if I move on to some of our case studies, this was all about a collaboration that we had with Petrofac over in Azerbaijan. Within that, at the time, it was going to be the largest technical training centre contract in the world. And what we were doing, we are a technical training experts. Petrofac at the time were an EP and still are an EPC company, and they had the expertise to build training centres. So we formed a joint venture with them so that we could bring our expertise in curriculum design, in running training centres. They built the centre, but we specified the kit, the equipment, we developed the technical training curriculum, and we very much bespoked it to the plant that we were going to be doing the training for. So we literally had the pump numbers and all of the vessel numbers so that the technicians themselves knew exactly what it was all aligned to. We implemented the health and safety system and a quality system. And again, one of the key things that we did was we made the training centre feel very much part of the workplace and not necessarily part of an education facility. Because of the very nature of what we were doing, we wanted all of the trainees to be able to walk out of the centre, walk straight into the site and be confident and comfortable and add value to their employers. But one of the key things for us was not to be in country forever. We wanted to be able to train the local teachers and assessors and the management to be able to run the training centre without our input, because it's very important for us that the centre itself should be run by the locals and the national workforce and not by training expats. So to do that, we did train the trainer programs, we did assessor programs, we did work shadowing. We had their trainers come to us and they shadowed our trainers, our management, to get a feel for running the centre. And we did that for a number of years, going backwards and forwards. And over the lifetime of the project, we trained 5,000 technicians. But as well as working with organisations, we also work with universities and polytechnics. And in Ghana, one of the things that we did was we were asked by an organisation to go and do a study of the facilities that were in Ghana, because they knew they needed a technical training centre for the Jubilee field, but they weren't sure of what facilities were already in country. We went into country and visited lots of universities and polytechnics and private training providers, and we decided that the best place to set the up facility was in Takoradi. We worked with Takoradi University, and they provided the land for us to build the training centre on. Within some of the things that we did was we provided all of the equipment specifications. We sent our staff out to do the installation and the commissioning of the facility. Again, we designed and developed the technical training curriculum, and we provided all of the training materials. We implemented the health and safety and the quality systems aligned to ISO systems such as 45001 and 9001. We introduced international accreditation, so we took the likes of City and Guilds, we took EAL and PAVQ set as it was then. And then we also developed a mentoring programme for the Ghanaian staff so that they could be able to run their own facility. We were in country with them for 4 years. When after that we felt that we could withdraw. They're still running that centre and it's still providing high quality training to Ghanaian nationals. In Equatorial Guinea, we've been working with organisations there for since 2008, and we've been doing NVQ assessments in country. Now, to move that forward, we're now doing the assessor training so that again we can pull back and not have quite as many of our assessors having to go to country. We're just providing the IQA activities. But again, we've also done some consultancy so that they can bring their laboratories up to the ISO 17025 standard. Within Nigeria, we've been working for a long time with NLNG and SNEPCO. We started working with them back in 2001 when they approached us for residential training in the UK for their operations and engineering technicians. Part of the programme, as well as providing the electrical, the instrumentation, the mechanical and the process operation programmes, was also to provide a cultural experience so that the technicians were used to working with other countries and other cultures, and to provide a more rounded technician for them. Over the period of time, we've trained 232 of their technicians, but we've also trained 130 of their graduates as we've worked to give them practical skills, but also with Durham. We also worked with Durham University to help them get onto the first stage of the chartered route, so that again they could marry their practical skills with their academic skills to make them more valuable to the plant. Along with that, we've also been building competence until recently in Ukraine. We were working with Ferexpo, which is a large mining company in country, and one of the things that they were very keen to do was have their own bespoke standards rather than international standards to work to. Part of the reason being for that was they were keen to keep their workforce and considered that if they had accredited qualifications, that unfortunately the workforce might go to Poland or to other countries where they could potentially earn slightly higher wages. One of the things that we did with them was we worked with their job descriptions, and we worked with their HR team to marry the job descriptions to international standards around mining, and then we set the assessment criteria for the individuals to be assessed. Because one of the things that we found with the national standards in country was that they were very much aligned to the Soviet system, which hadn't moved on as quickly as perhaps the system in the West. To do that, we had a team of people where we worked with the local assessors. So we trained them in how to assess local engineering workers. We did gap analysis from the assessments, and we trained the local trainers to deliver engineering training. And from that, once we've identified the skills gaps, we also developed the training material so that they had fit for purpose training. We provided the quality assurance for the individuals. And with that, what we did was we provided IQA activity against the assessment reports, and we looked at the quality of them, and so that we maintained the standard and all of the assessors were working consistently. And again, we provided coaching and mentoring to the local project manager on the ground. And this was all quite challenging because it was done through the pandemic years. And we weren't always allowed to travel depending on which country was in lockdown and whether flights were available. Within the UK, again, particularly for the green energy market, we've been doing a lot around the transition to the renewable sector, and particularly around wind farms. We've introduced a number of programs such as reskilling training for the unemployed. We've brought in apprenticeships for electrical engineering along high voltage lines, particularly to enable the individuals to work at on the turbines and at the top in the nacelles. We've developed, as well as that, a wind turbine technician program so that we can take in school leavers. And recently they were all went to a local wind farm and were able to actually access the bottom of a wind turbine and see all the control room and the facilities that are in there. And it also gave them an idea of how much of a confined space it is working in a turbine. As well as that, we also offer the global wind organisations basic technical training, which is in electrical, it's in mechanical and hydraulic processes, all of which are crucial to any new entrant going into this field. And then one of the things that we did last December was we were working with the Department for Business and Trade across Africa, and we had all of their energy directors come to the college for a week in December, and it was very cold for them. Well, you can't see it on these pictures, but we did have some snow on the ground. And within that programme, which we designed and built for them, we showed them and introduced them to different decarbonisation options. So we looked at energy production through energy from waste, from renewables, such as solar and wind. We also looked at hydrogen production. We built in carbon capture and storage and energy storage. We also combined the theory with practical visits. So we went to a wind farm, we went to an energy from waste site, we took them to the leading research facility for, again, for wind turbines, and we also visited the ports, which are crucial for the infrastructure for energy, for wind farms. I'm Hazel Linz, and here are my contact details, and I would be very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much indeed, Hazel. You kept everyone enthralled there, particularly about there being snow on the ground up in Middlesbrough at the time of that visit in December, because is that what we expect, bad weather up north? No, we don't. Brilliant. What a range of skills options that you've got available at TTE and Middlesbrough College. And I think having Middlesbrough College, you know, as part of the kind of TTE outfit really does allow you to stretch your wings across many skills areas. So really brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm particularly interested in those case studies. So really good to see skills being demonstrated. Thank you. Moving on though, we come to our last speaker. So Nicola Woolwork from the National Skills Academy for Nuclear, otherwise known as NSAN. Nicola is the operations director. She first joined NSAN in 2016, bringing her expertise in work-based education and training to support NSAN members. Nicola will discuss two important NSAN initiatives: Skills Assured, a competency management platform, and growing awareness in nuclear, otherwise known as GAIN, which is an onboarding induction program. Nicola, we can see your slides. Can we hear you?
Hopefully you can, Jonathan. Thank you.
We can. It's over to you. Thank you.
Amazing. And thank you very much for the introduction, Jonathan, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everybody. As Jonathan said, my name's Nicola Woolwork. I'm the Director of Operations at NSAN, National Skills Academy Nuclear, and I'm delighted to be here this morning to share with you some of the interventions NSAN has designed and delivered to organisations across the nuclear industry. Okay, so who are NSAN? We are the go-to place for skills for nuclear. And if I can break that down a little bit further, we don't just support organisations with nuclear skills, so those technical skills, for example, to operate a nuclear reactor. We support organisations with all skills to effectively, safely and competently work within the nuclear industry. From those very specialised technical skills and scientific roles, right the way through to things like project management, business development, bids and tenders, and supporting roles such as L&D, HR, procurement. The list is endless. NSAN is a not-for-profit organisation, but equally we're not for loss. So any surplus at the end of our financial year is reinvested into the development of further products and services for the nuclear industry. We're led by nuclear sector employers from both civil and defence, and we're here to provide valuable, cost-effective and practical support to organisations large and small. So you may be aware there's a bit of a nuclear renaissance going on here in the UK at the moment, and what an exciting time to be involved in the nuclear industry. As you can see from this slide, there's an array of opportunities for companies to get involved in the UK nuclear industry. There's been significant investment and support from UK government in new build at Hinkley Point C down in Somerset, at Sizewell C, and with opportunities for companies to become part of the construction, manufacturing and operations supply chains. In terms of decommissioning, those activities will probably outlive us all on the call this morning, as typically clean-up of nuclear sites can take in excess of 60+ years. So lots of opportunities for companies managing nuclear waste, engineering and environmental remediation. There's a buzz around small modular reactors with the launch of Great British Nuclear by UK government imminently, meaning there'll be opportunities for companies to be involved in supply chain activities and ultimately support the UK to hit its net zero targets. The UK also has a steeped history in research and development, and this continues to be a priority for UK government. And there are also countless export opportunities to do business outside of the UK, whether that be through the export of nuclear skills or companies' expertise and products selling into international markets. So, what are the benefits of working in the UK nuclear industry? There's long-term contracts, access to expertise and technology, many collaboration opportunities from which companies can benefit from working with other organisations. And finally, building your reputation and credibility of being able to operate in a highly regulated industry. Okay, so how can NSAN support companies to operate within nuclear? Hot off the press programme, NSAN has just Insight to Nuclear, which combines expert-led training sessions with self-assessment exercises, providing you with insight, the insight you will need to decide if nuclear is the next destination for your business. So this unique 14-week programme has been designed for companies with no prior knowledge of the UK nuclear industry, and it will guide you through the complexities of the sector. We're capping this programme at a maximum of 10 people per group, so you'll have the support from an industry expert and access to a digital platform and group sessions to check your knowledge and understanding with peers. Topics that we will cover in the Insight to Nuclear programme include those that you can see on the screen there. So things like security and safety, understanding of the UK nuclear industry landscape, the regulatory requirements and compliance, expectations of the supply chain, and a better understanding of the procurement process. So Insight to Nuclear is for companies not currently operating in the nuclear industry. But the NSAN Gain programme is all about ensuring you have a skilled, knowledgeable and SQEP, suitably qualified and experienced workforce to bid and ultimately undertake work in the UK nuclear industry. So GAIN, Growing Awareness in Nuclear, is a cost-effective way to ensure that new graduates, apprentices, or those joining the nuclear industry obtain a comprehensive awareness of the industry, either delivered face-to-face or completely remotely. GAIN provides a whole sector viewpoint, delivering awareness in nuclear history, nuclear science, and the operation of nuclear energy, all the way through to decommissioning and waste management. So I thought I'd just share with you a very brief case study of how the NSAN GAIN programme has addressed a really critical issue for the UK nuclear industry. By means of background, there's a massive skills shortage in the sector currently. In effect, too many jobs and not enough skilled people to undertake them. And this is an issue right across the nuclear supply chain. So NSAN has worked with Jacobs, an organisation hopefully some of you will be familiar with, an international and multinational organisation, who, like many others in the sector, have won lots of contracts and therefore have really high recruitment targets in order to enable them to deliver on the projects. But at the same time, they're fishing in an ever-decreasing nuclear skills talent pool. Jacobs therefore decided to attract people from other industries and sectors, to include oil and gas, aerospace and automotive, and provide them with a robust induction into the nuclear NSAN, taking experienced project managers, engineers, bid writers, and putting them through a bespoke 12-week induction programme, which was centred around GAIN, the Growing Awareness in Nuclear programme, but was bespoke with additional masterclasses and seminars delivered by subject industry professionals on topics such as site licence conditions, human performance and personal accountability, and nuclear security. Jacobs have now had over 90 people go through this programme, the impact of which has meant that they can join the Jacobs business and hit the ground running in terms of their knowledge of the nuclear industry. So this slide just shows you some of the organisations that NSAN has delivered the GAIN programme to, just a couple to pick out there. So Rolls-Royce SMR, for example, have used the GAIN programme in a very similar way to Jacobs, inducting their new starters into the business. Where the likes of Sellafield, for example, have used GAIN as part of a robust induction for all their early careers people, so their graduates and apprentices. So the final thing I wanted to mention today is Skills Assured. NSAN developed a skills and competency management system a number of years ago alongside industry and subject matter experts, formerly known as the Nuclear Skills Passport and NS4P. We were delighted to launch a version 3 of the system about 18 months ago now, and this is called Skills Assured. Embedded within Skills Assured is an industry-developed master competency framework which focuses around 3 main areas: disciplines, core knowledge and behaviours. And this allows organisations to benchmark their competencies against an industry-defined standard. There's also the flexibility to add your own competencies. The system is an online secure portal, so provides organisations with a repository for employee training records, qualifications and competency assessments. It supports organisations to manage skills and capabilities and help identify skills shortages. Skills Assured is utilised by a number of organisations in the UK nuclear industry, to include the likes of Rolls-Royce SMR and Assistem. and can be fully customizable to meet organisations' needs. So I think that's probably my time up now. Thank you very much for your time and your attention this morning. For anyone that's super techie, you can scan the QR code on the screen there and connect with us. Alternatively, our website and email address is there in the bottom corner. Please do reach out. NSAN, I'd love to talk to you about how we could help you with your nuclear skills. And thank you very much. Back to you, Jonathan.
Ah, you don't get away with it so easily, Nicola. So thank you so much indeed. If I could ask all the speakers to come back on camera, that would be fantastic, because we're going to dive straight into the Q&A session now. And I often find this is the most interesting part, just because of the range of questions that come up. And some of them are, you know, generally confirmations maybe of what you've covered, and people just, you know, may have missed that particular bit or whatever. So do bear with me. But I'm going to take the question that's just come in from Xiaojing Wang. Xiaojing is on our education team based in China, DBT China. So the question for NSAN specifically, recently many universities have been impacted by export control, particularly with subjects like AI or new materials, etc. I wondered if there are skills related to nuclear that have been impacted as well. So do you know of any difficulties crossing borders with skills for nuclear?
Yeah, great question there, actually, and obviously with the UK's exit from Europe, there has been some real skills challenges, and actually I was down on site at Hinckley on Monday and having a very similar conversation with some people from EDF. Lots of challenges around nuclear skills, and I know certainly the industry is really focused on upskilling UK workers to obviously undertake some of these roles that we're really crying out to fill within the sector, but equally looking across the world for those industry experts and subject matter experts that ultimately we will need here within the UK to ensure that we can deliver on the current civil nuclear agenda.
What about from the perspective of, you know, the actual content and skills being taught? Is there any concern about security or top secret or anything like that?
Probably not the best to comment on that, Jonathan, but I can certainly take that away and I can feedback accordingly. Obviously, being a highly regulated industry that nuclear is, there is lots of security, obviously, in terms of working and accessing a nuclear licence site.
Thank you so much indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's a complex area, we know that, so there's probably some boundaries somewhere. Diving straight into the question list then that we've got. So I noted that this must be aimed at Munir because it's about English language. I noticed you have business English courses. How do you develop new English programs in other industries?
That's based on consumer demand. So, for example, we know that English for STEM is big at the moment, so we're looking at that. Also, more technical English language. So, for example, English within the oil and gas sector. So, a lot of the time, it's our clients or potential clients will ask, "Do you have a course in this or that?" And then we'll work with them to develop new courses.
Fantastic. And are your materials white labeled so that we can include them in our LMS in Vietnam?
Yes. Drop me a line, we can discuss afterwards.
Okay, great. And how do you embed your language programs into internships in Indonesia? So I guess that's a common question, is how can they be part of another program, you know, so it's all bolted together?
Well, with our internships, so the way that that works is that we will send people who want to go, for example, to Vietnam and they want to teach English. Whilst they are there, we give them the option to also market the courses within Vietnam, so they can actually generate additional income by using our courses to help the local population develop their language skills as well.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Munir. Moving on, if we can, to Catherine, I think, because these questions look like they're for ETF. So thank you for the focus on quality of teaching. How would you suggest we look to implement your programs in India?
That's a very interesting one, isn't it? Because I think part of the elements of quality of teaching is to look at what's already working well. Do more of that perhaps within the sector in India, but also then to identify gaps. And I think probably that approach to higher order thinking skills, or that embedded and promotional content of communication, maths and digital skills, I think perhaps that might be a useful approach to take.
Similar question, might be the same answer, but similar question from looks like from Vietnam and Malaysia. So they're saying, we have private schools in Malaysia and Vietnam. How do we adopt your approach, and what would you see as the most important starting point?
I think the most important starting point is with the young people, and looking at that sort of holistic development of learners. So perhaps within the school system there, thinking about, we maybe perhaps be very good at the knowledge, but are we developing those behaviours and skills that learners will need to take once they leave the educational environment? So I think looking at what employers and industry want, looking at then bridging that gap between leaving the school and going into perhaps higher education or industry will be really important. But I think it's that focus on individuals and those more holistic, we used to call them soft skills, but I think now we tend to think of them more as essential skills, those skills that they need out in the commercial world.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, the soft skills arena has changed quite a lot, and and they're a mix of cognitive skills and technical skills and all sorts of things, but I just call them getting on with life skills, because that's kind of what we need. One more question for you. How are your programs embedded into curriculum programs, and is this usable to support leaders and governors of education institutes?
Yes, definitely that last point, because again, we encourage a whole organisation approach. So when we're looking at professional development for teachers, it's also looking at how that integrates into curriculum, perhaps areas of curriculum where they might use some of the teaching skills better than others, and then how for leaders, managers and governors, they can begin to build that culture around making sure that high quality of teaching, learning and assessment is across the board, and also in the support roles that we have within education. So it's about leadership and management, it's about classroom practice, and it's about the support roles around the classroom.
Thank you so much indeed. Thanks very much, Catherine. Over to Amajit now. Amajit, a question for you around micro-credentialing has come in. Micro-credentialing are something that we need in Thailand. How can you help us implement these so they are transferable for our students?
I think the main point behind that part of the presentation was that this is something that we're very much in development with. So really, I would encourage a kind of direct bit of conversation to happen. Let's swap details. Let's take this offline, and let's see how we can collaborate.
Great, no problem. How can you help our Education Institute with more inclusive approaches in the Philippines? Oh, that must be a question for Lauren, actually. Thank you so much, Amajit. How can you help us help our Education Institute with more inclusive approaches in the Philippines? Lauren.
I would say it would definitely depend on what barriers you're experiencing and what the inequality is specifically looking like. But we would definitely be able to start with like an audit or some data collection, and then we can pull out some recommendations for you, and we can design bespoke training, or you can have something that is more off of the shelf, something that is already designed. But if you drop our email, our inquiries@righttracklearning.com, we'll be able to set up a meeting for you and we can discuss that in more detail.
Lauren, thank you. Another question for you. Have you any advice on how courses and materials should be reviewed and changed to be more accessible to students? I think they're looking for a couple of top tips to get them going here.
Yes, definitely. I would say make sure that your stuff is accessible for people with screen readers. So having grammar and punctuation correct, full stops at the end of bullet points, making sure that your text is easy to read in terms of your background. So people who might be dyslexic or people with visual impairments will be able to see what's written on there. You can also Google accessibility requirements. I cannot remember what it's specifically called. I think it's the WAP that has a whole list of things that you can do for presentations, Word documents, all of that kind of stuff.
Brilliant, some helpful advice there. In fact, I'm colourblind, so I really struggle when people send me colour charts and they say, oh, you know, everything in green and orange and all that, you know, and literally you might as well just paint the world in one colour, because, you know, I think people have varying degrees of difficulty with that, but it can be a nightmare. And usually I end up sending it back and say, you know, what colours are you talking about? Where are they? So,
yeah,
you know,
this is the importance of being accessible.
Yeah, very simple, but makes all the difference. Thank you so much, Lauren. Hazel, does TTE have cooperation with Vietnamese colleges? It was a question from the chat, of course. If you do, what kind of partnerships? If you don't, would you be interested, and how can we get the conversation going?
We don't have any partnerships exist currently with Vietnam. We would be happy to have partnerships with Vietnam. And if I've put my contact details in the chat, so if they want to get in touch with me, and we can take this offline.
Okay, great. You've got another question in the chat, which is a question for Mrs. Hazel. How have you adjusted the curriculum towards green jobs? How are green jobs marketed in your company, and which skills do the trainers need and get, I guess, for changes in the labour market? So quite a big question.
It is. But one of the things that we do is we work really closely with employers, and we have numerous employer forums every year, so that we can look at what is the new demand and what skills challenges are they facing, and then we work with them to develop the curriculums so that we're aligned to the skills that they need. And along with that, we also do a lot of CPD for our workforce, so they will go out and spend time in industry every year, so that we keep their skills up to date. And in some cases where the specific courses that are required, such as with the GWO, to be able to deliver it, we sent our staff on it with another provider, so that they'd been through the course to enable them to be able to teach it. So we use a number of different areas.
Thank you so much. Amajit, on OCN London courses, how do you keep them up to date and, you know, ahead of the curve, as it were, with regards to employer and industry demands?
Again, that's a good question. So within any kind of qualification lifetime, there is a review cycle that takes place. So that's kind of something that happens naturally, but as well we engage with a variety of different employers. I mean, it's so important to have the backing of, you know, not just educational specialists, but employers, you know, sub sector leaders, kind of organizations like that. So it's something that we're always seeking to do and engage with further.
Brilliant, thank you. Back to you, Hazel. There is another question here, which is, you have some brilliant examples of setting up centres. What is the initial process for helping us do the same in China?
Okay, I mean, I think the first thing is let's have a meeting. We can discuss it and see what your needs are, and then we can take it forward from that. So again, drop me an email and we'll set up a meeting.
Okay, great. There is a question in the chat to all speakers, but we'll save that to the end so that you can all have a say at the end. Okay. But this must be aimed at you, Hazel, again, because it says, how do you ensure that your training programs include new innovations from the sector to help them keep up to date? I guess you've just covered that, actually. Okay. Do your qualifications and training help me change jobs and sectors? Is it valid across countries too, Hazel?
Yes, the training that we offer does help people move across sectors. Some of the things that we can do is that we offer the core skills, and then we can bolt on for specific sectors as well.
Okay, great. And I think the question also is for Nicola in terms of NSAN. Your case studies and information show you're the experts in the nuclear industry, and you include some infrastructure. How could our training centre become a partner with you?
It'd be great to arrange a conversation of how we could work with partners. We've certainly worked with a number of partners over the years across Europe. We've recently undertook a project within Indonesia. So absolutely, I'll drop my email address into the chat now, and if you'd like to reach out, and we'd be delighted to have a chat and see how we can work with you going forward.
Great. And staying with you, we have another question. How can NSAN help us to develop and deliver specialist courses in net zero power training and other skills programs associated with the industry?
Same answer, actually. In terms of the courses and training that we deliver, although NSAN isn't a training provider per se, we work with a network of high quality training providers from colleges and universities here within the UK to private training providers. So we've got a wealth of experience in terms of developing and delivering programs. So if you'd like to drop me an email, I'm just going to pop my email address in the chat. Be brilliant to pick that up offline and see how we can work with you.
Brilliant, thank you. What's the next one? Oh, so somebody's asked, is there a way to work with NSAN on infrastructure generally in Indonesia? So, for example, crossing over into other sectors?
I'd love to say yes, because we don't like saying no at NSAN, but ultimately we are the National Skills Academy for nuclear. So as I'd said in my presentation, it isn't just specific nuclear skills required to operate on nuclear sites. It's those peripheral skills as well. But in terms of general infrastructure, that wouldn't be NSAN's area of expertise, unfortunately.
But you could engage with others that do it.
Absolutely, yeah. We'd be certainly more than happy to signpost where we can.
Okay, and somebody must love your growing awareness in your GAIN program, because they've said, can we license or have other versions of this? So growing awareness in other sectors, for example. So they've put engineering and they've put construction. How do we replicate the model successfully across Africa?
So obviously the GAIN program that we're currently developed and delivering across the UK nuclear sector is nuclear specific. In terms of the model and the development of that, there are certainly some key learning objectives and delivery modes and styles that we could certainly share with other organisations to help replicate, to enable delivery and upskilling within other sectors. So absolutely, do take a note of my email address and reach out. We'd be delighted to talk to you and explore that further.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, 3 questions for all of you. So first one of those is, I see many of you work with employers and industry. How do you do employer engagement? So who wants to pick that up first? Anybody? Nobody?
Okay, so we've got a team of employer engagement representatives who go out and make regular contact, but as well as that, we also use our assessors when they're going to site to be part of the employer engagement, because every contact that you have with an employer can bring some useful information back. And we also have regular employer forums as well, where we invite in employers to come and tell us what they want and what they need, so that we can ensure that our programs are aligned to their needs.
Brilliant. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add to that in that we have regional relationship leads who work with organisations, educational organisations, as well as local employers. We also have employer engagement officers. But I think as well, the really important thing is that we work with employers. We often invite them in. We use their skills now to make sure that professional development and qualifications are fit for purpose from the industry point of view. And I think it's about that give and take in relationships and making sure that we're channeling communication and building those networks, because they're so essential, aren't they, to make sure that the skills that we're trying to develop are right for the industries that receive them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to that question in the chat that's kind of there for everybody. It says, really to all speakers, in terms of skill shortages in a particular area, would you be looking to training Indian qualified professionals, making them competent and provide them with job opportunities? We are a work school in India, so they're looking for some support in India to help train people up to get them into jobs. Can you help? And if so, how?
I can take that question.
Well, I was going to say we can help them from an EAL perspective, but I think from a skills perspective, I think there's people better qualified in the session, but EAL definitely, absolutely.
Great. So we've got English language. Lauren, over to you.
Yeah, so Right Track Learning prides itself on being bespoke, meeting people where they are. We are a global organisation, so absolutely fine. Let us know what you need to be developed in, and we will meet you where you are. We create bespoke content and tailored content for any audience, so drop us an email. I've popped it in the chat already.
Thank you so much. Anyone want to add to that?
I'd just like to add to that as well. I mean, OCN London is an awarding organisation, so we don't actually engage in direct delivery of training and skills to learners, but it is something we could obviously accredit. So, for example, if a colleague did deliver certain qualifications, it's something that we could help facilitate in that regard. I just wanted to add to that previous point about employer engagement. We do engage with employers directly. Many of our centres are, but we also attend lots of different forums. I mean, UK-wide, there are so many, including different trade bodies and different forums like chambers of commerce, which are a great way of accessing a range of employers.
Great, thank you.
And I would like to say, yes, we can assist with the Indian question. So if people just get in touch, my contact details are in the chat, and we'll see what we can do to help.
So it looks like we've got lots of support to help if India wants to get in touch and help with their qualifications and training delivery, or setting it up, or their policy, or any element of their delivery. So brilliant, thank you. Now look, this is the final unmapped question that comes from Jonathan. So the question really to you all, why are you brilliant?
Well, partly because we've had 30 years experience of taking the skills around the world and training people to be able to run and their industries in their own countries, which displaces expats, so it can grow their economy in their own country.
Brilliant, thank you. Good snappy answer. Who's next? Oh, it's Catherine.
Yes, so I think in terms of why engage with us, we're happy to lead, but we're also happy to collaborate. So very much that collegiate process to make sure that the very high quality CPD that we can support is engaging, motivating and impactful and ultimately resulting in that really enhanced learning for students.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Lauren, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So we have over 33 years experience working across sectors globally, and our testimonials and feedback that you can find on our website speaks for themselves. We pride ourselves on having really lively, engaging and creating a really safe space for people to learn and self-reflect. So I think that is really important.
Thank you so much. Munir.
Well, as Jonathan mentioned, I've got an MBE in education and export, so I must be doing something right
He has.
once. But on top of that, over 25 years working in international trade. We've been working in education for the last 15 years. We've won international awards for our work. We can support on recruitment, training, tutoring, English language courses. So, you know, that's why we are brilliant.
Wonderful. Thank you. Amajit.
Sure. I was just going to say that we're experienced in a really wide range of areas. We're small enough an organisation to be agile and move quickly, but we're big enough to scale up as required. And one of the key characteristics of working with us is you feel like a partner rather than just a kind of customer.
Fantastic. Nicola, that means you're last.
I know, and I feel so under pressure now, Jonathan, having heard some great elevator pitches from my fellow guest speakers this morning. And I suppose NSAN encapsulates everything that everybody's said this morning. We're a small organisation, obviously based here in the UK, but we take pride in developing and nurturing collaborative relationships with organisations and training providers. We've got lots of off-the-shelf products and services, but equally we're happy to work with people, listen to people's needs and develop and support bespoke solutions where required. And if we can't help, we're happy to signpost. So great to hear from anybody with any further questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that does bring us to the end of today's session. Don't run away just yet, though. So our colleagues as speakers have been fantastic. And so we've had Munir Mamaji, MBE from M2R Education, Catherine Langford from Education and Training Foundation, Amajit Danjal from OCN London, and then Lauren Blackwood from Right Track Learning Limited, Hazel Lintz from TTE International Middlesbrough College, and of course Nicola Woolwork from NSAN, the National Skills Academy for Nuclear. A wide range, brilliant speakers, lots of interesting topics. For me, a couple of big words that have come out have been partnerships and collaboration. And I think one of the things that they all do brilliantly is that they will work in any country, you know, in partnerships, in collaboration, not only with other suppliers, but, you know, with governments, aid agencies and all sorts of things. So thank you very much indeed. You know, really, really grateful for your time. We do have one more session. So it starts on Friday, 8 AM UK time for a couple of hours where we'll have a new day, new speakers, new topics. Join us again.